Got it. Okay, you set to go.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Southborough Board of Health meeting on Tuesday, March 14th at 11:02 a.m. All board members are present. And as most of you probably know, we do have a snow day today for our school system. So I will try to move as quickly as possible. But if we have to kick some things to the next meeting, we may need to do that if you guys are okay with that. So first order of business is public comment. So if anybody has something that they'd like to say, please raise your hand. We don't have a lot of attendees this morning, so. Okay, next is approval of the minutes from the 117 executive session, 128, which was the budget meeting, and then 214, which was our regular meeting. And I had 3 changes to the 214 meeting. Did anybody else have any changes on anything?
No.
Okay. Let me just pull it up quick. So one was on the action for the new interim tobacco inspector. It should be Ms. Malinowski made a motion to appoint the hiring of Ms. Morello instead of approve the hiring. The next one was on the best practice grant. It should say, and for the discussion, and should say to deliver the goals at a Southborough Board of Health meeting, not at town meeting.
Oh, okay.
And there was a third one. Hold on a second. I must have missed it. I didn't write them down, so. Maybe it was only 2. So just those 2 changes. Everybody okay with those?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to make 2 different motions because we're not going to release the executive session, but we'll approve them.
Okay.
So I'm going to make a motion to approve the 117-23 executive session minutes.
I second the motion and vote aye, Sacco.
And I vote aye.
And Malinowski's aye. Okay, and then I'll make a motion to approve and release the 128-23 minutes and the 214-23 minutes as amended.
I second the motion and vote aye, Sacco.
And I vote aye, Medina.
And Malinowski's aye. Okay, thank you. All set on those. Next on the agenda is the variance request for 6 Cherry Street. Dennis, do you want to tee this one up?
Yeah, so this is 6 Cherry Street. It's owned by New England Center for Children. They have bought up quite a bit of property around that area. The problem with that area is very poor drainage. So we've run across other parcels that have been addressed actually by New England Center and other people. This particular property, like every other one, is very small. And in order to put a system in there, it definitely needs to have variances along with it. So the perk was not established because of the groundwater. If we can't watch it go down, we can't establish a perk rate. So a sieve analysis was done upon it, and we came up with the 30-minute rate. So that's how we came up with a rate. The system being used in here is a Presby system. It's actually an advanced Presby system, which allows for us to give them a waiver for the 4-foot groundwater table down to 2 feet. So that's one thing that's written into the code that's in the particular approval of this particular system. So to give you a quick snapshot of it, it's 4-bedroom house. It's got a 1,500 gallon septic tank, a 1,000 gallon pump chamber, Both of those tanks are monolithic, so there are no seams. If you've seen other tanks before, they are split in two. These are not. These are continuous concrete, so there is no infiltration whatsoever of groundwater. The system is raised a bit, so that's why the pump chamber is there. The system also comes through with a reduction in the size. However, the size takes up a good portion of the lot as it is. So the variances that they're looking for are the approval to the setbacks to the sidelines, I believe down to from 10 feet down to 6 feet, and one down to 5 3/4 feet. Also, a setback from the 20-foot separation from the foundation to the septic system, which they have at approximately 8 feet. In order to mitigate those distances, on the plan, you don't have the plan, do you?
Didn't
We-
get
we
scanned in
don't.
time.
You do not, okay. And I don't know how to share whatever I do on the screen. So basically on the plan, there is a retaining wall on two sides, which is the property line setbacks. And on those both sides of the retaining wall, there is a barrier, a vapor barrier, we call it. So it's a 40 mil barrier, runs around the side property line and the front property line. And it also will be extended about 5 feet from the system across where the foundation is not 20-foot separation. So that is all in the plan. I've gone over everything on the plan. All the numbers work. The setbacks do work because they're really needed. The system is a vast improvement of what's
Yeah.
there, and taking everything into consideration, I think this is probably one of the best plans to be put in there. I know the engineer, Evan Carloni, is on the meeting. If he has anything more to add, or if you guys have any questions.
Well, I know historically that's a tough neighborhood and we've had to
Yep.
be a little creative, and nothing's ever come back to bite us. I always feel like you do your due diligence and make sure whatever you come up with works. So I feel pretty confident in it.
Thank you. You're absolutely correct. We've done maybe 6 or 7 different systems there.
At
And-
least, yeah, I would say, yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, it is, Evan.
Dennis, is there currently a variance for this property for the current septic?
Is it what? Say it again.
Is there currently a variance on the septic that's there now?
No.
Because
This
it was
septic
prior.
Correct. Yes. Yep.
Safdar, do you have any questions before we go to Evan?
The only question, are there any abutters here that we have to be concerned about?
The abutters have been notified.
Okay.
I don't know if there's any abutters here.
Mhm.
No.
So there are.
Okay.
Okay. Which I think this is in good. I think the abutters would more than approve of this. So.
Evan, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, so I do have, if anybody wants to see the plan, I do have it up. I could potentially screen share if you're interested.
That would be
Um,
great, because I was gonna ask that we table it if we couldn't see the plan before we voted. So that would be
Yeah.
great if we can take a look.
I can do that. Host disabled participant screen sharing. So I'm disabled
Yeah.
for that.
We'll give it to you.
Whoops, wrong one. Hang on. Hold on, it's giving me a few little problems here.
And Evan, can you just introduce yourself so that the public knows? who you
Yes,
are?
absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm Evan Carloni from Innovative Septic Design. Yeah, I've been working on this project. Dennis did a great job presenting it. It's a tight one. It's a really tight one. So I appreciate your time in considering the variance requests.
This is strange. I'm sorry. I don't know what the heck it's doing. Chelsea, how are you with this? It seems to be giving me some problems
So just
today.
hit stop sharing.
Hang on, hang on. I'm all over the place here now. Oh, crud. Gonna lose everybody. This isn't good. Hold on. Stop share. Okay.
There you go. All right, so let me see if I can.
I keep coming up with a different screen.
So if you put your cursor over Evan's name and go to more, do you have that option?
Okay, let's do that.
And then do you see anything that says like promote to co-host or something?
Here we go. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yes,
All right, great. So here I've zoomed in on the plan view. Here's the whole plan, but just so we can see the setbacks that we're talking about here. Dennis, we spoke not recently. I did just add that line in generally for that barrier
Correct.
there. So the setbacks that are being requested here are there's the basically the notation of the distances, the 5.6 to this line, 7.5 to this line from the field, and then 6.5 feet from the pump chamber to this property line. And then we're actually almost at 9 feet here for the local upgrade. I always just round down. So we had said 8, but it's actually really 9. It's 8.99. These lines, although it wasn't required, Title V requires within 5 feet that the property lines be surveyed and licensed and stamped by a surveyor. My plan's not stamped, but we did have a surveyor out, and this design is based off of his line. So he sent me his line. So these are all to the dot. So and then again, a new retaining wall here on the side of 7 Grove Street. This wall over here is an existing stone wall. But right, so we've got a barrier and wall here because we couldn't quite slope off quickly enough to reduce to make sure fill doesn't go onto the neighbor's property. And then we've got an impervious barrier here between the foundation and the edge of the leach field. So those are the mitigation measures that we have in place for this system.
Sorry, Evan, can you repeat what is new and versus what's already there?
So for system, what's already there for a septic system?
So is it the same footprint for the system?
No. So the system now is just in the back. We've got an existing tank right off the back here that's notated as the numerical value 5.
Okay.
And then there is some sort of leach area, but that wasn't determined because there's nothing on file. And I believe that they had opened it up and just took a look in the tank, and it was already failed. So they didn't explore any further than that.
Okay, so that footprint is brand new to this property for this new system.
Correct.
yes.
And then, so the stone wall that's number 15 there, that already exists.
Yes,
12 does not.
correct.
And then the black lines that represent the impervious barrier also do not exist today.
Correct.
Okay, and Dennis, in your opinion, those would mitigate any risk to an abutter or the current structure?
Yes, yep, yes.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, this is a tight lot, huh?
Yes, very.
Okay. Okay, Nancy or Safdar, any questions about the actual plan?
No, I
No,
agree. It's a very tight lot, but I think a lot of them are
Yeah.
over there, and it's always been challenging. The soil is tough.
Is anybody living there now, Evan?
Not at the moment, not since I've been there last. They've just been doing some work on it. On the
Okay.
house.
And so did you say that the septic has failed? Or
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So nobody could live there now anyways,
Right.
until this is replaced. Okay. Okay. And Dennis, I know you had mentioned that you weren't able to do a perk test on that, and you had to do the sieve test. Is there any concern around not actually being able to complete a perk test on this?
No, I think most of those systems around Cherry Street and Pleasant Street, I don't think any of them were able to establish a perk rate.
Oh, okay.
So basically, it's a little bit harder. Well, not all the times, but to do a sieve analysis usually comes out a little bit on our side, a little bit more conservative. So
Okay.
we're very, yeah, it's a good process.
Okay. I just haven't come across that type of
Yeah,
test.
okay, yep.
Okay. Okay. Evan, I think we're good on the map if you
Sure.
want to take it down. Thank you for being able to share that. Sorry, normally we would have been in person this morning and have had the plan in front of us, but obviously we had to switch gears. So appreciate you having that available. Anything else from the board or Heather Taylor that you want to weigh in on here?
No.
I think I'm comfortable to take a position today if the board is, it seems that this is the best solution. So Dennis, in terms of a motion, just want to make sure we include what you need in that motion.
So the motion would be to approve the reduction in the lot line setbacks from 10 feet down to 6 feet. And from the leach field to the cellar wall from 20 feet to 9 feet. And the use of a sieve analysis. And that will take all of the reductions into play.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to make a motion that the Board of Health support a reduction in the lot lines from 10 feet to 6 feet. The leaching field from 20 feet to 9 feet. Is that right? Or was it
Is that what you had,
65?
Evan?
Yeah, so I've got from foundation to leach field is 9 approximately.
Okay.
The closest for the leach field to lot line is 5.6. And then the closest for pump chamber to lot line is 6.5.
Correct. I forgot the pump chamber. Okay.
Yep.
So I can leave it at 9
Yes.
for the leach field. Okay. And to that the sieve test was an appropriate analysis in place of a perk test.
Correct.
Sorry, do you want to just say the address too?
Thank you, for 6 Cherry Street, Southborough.
Okay, so I can second this motion and vote aye, Sacca.
And I vote aye, Medina.
And Malinowski is aye. Thank you, Evan. for
Thank you all
coming.
for your time. I
Good
appreciate
luck
it.
with the project.
Thank you.
And
Thank
thanks,
you.
Dennis.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna bounce around a little bit because I see we have Ms. Burns Fiore in the attendees. So I'm gonna bring her over. And so this is number 9 on your agenda. And so this is a citizen's petition to modify the appointment authority of the Public Works Planning Board. And I'll let Ms. Burns Fiore explain why she's bringing this forward at town meeting. Just to give you a little bit of background, currently the Public Works Planning Board is a 5-member committee, and it is made up of 3 appointees made by the moderator and 2 by planning board. And I believe this was instituted in 1991 when they merged several departments that are now currently under Public Works together. And so it's essentially an advisory board that reports to the select board on anything related to DPW. So I asked Ms. Burns Fiore to present it to us because we are one of the areas that she's looking to add as an appointing authority. And I'm trying to bring her over, but I don't know what's on.
You know what? You're not co-host. I have to make you co-host again. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
I fix you. I fix you.
She looks here now.
Okay.
Yeah. Patty, you should be able to come off mute now. There you go. Okay. And if you
That
want to
better?
introduce yourself, I'll hand it over to you.
Hi, my name is Patricia Burns Fiore. I live at 10 Winter Street, actually not far from that house you were just talking about in Cherry Street. And this article, as Chelsea said, is to redefine the appointing authority for the Public Works Planning Board. There's a couple of very basic reasons to do this. One is that we need this board to be effective and work properly. I'm sorry, I was trying to just tell somebody that we were doing this now. Sorry.
I figured I'd move you up because I saw you sitting.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay.
I was just supposed to give somebody a heads up, so I was unprepared. So we're looking for this board to be an effective and useful board, considering the number of and the scope of the projects that we've had coming out of the DPW in the last few years, and the amount of money that those projects cost this town. I think it's important to have some kind of oversight and advisory on how that department is operating. Now, technically, this is not an oversight board. That's not defined in terms of the charter. But as Chelsea said, this was a board that was established by the legislature in 1991 when the Department of Public Works was created by a legislative act, which combined the highway department and the water department, et cetera. At that time, the legislature, whoever wrote that original bill, put the power, the appointing power of this board for 5 people, 3 of which are in the hands of the moderator and 2 of which are in the hands of the planning board. And my real thought behind this is that this board needs to be appointed by stakeholders in the kind of projects that the Public Works Department oversees. Obviously, I think the planning board has a large say in that, which is why it is to go 4 appointees to the planning board. But I also think that the Board of Health, which in that petition, it is unfortunately incorrect saying Department of Health, but it will be changed when it's presented at town meeting. The Board of Health is the other primary responsibility I see in putting people on this board that have a responsibility and a stake in the outcome of these projects. Because your board oversees not only water, but also certain aspects of the town that are operated through the DPW. For example, pesticide spraying and that kind of thing, which we know that there have been issues within the last few years in regard to correct licensing and plans that were not submitted to the state. So that's why I think that the Board of Health is a really important member of this appointing authority for the Public Works Planning Board. And I have also had questions about why the moderator is not the appropriate party. And for me, that lies in 2 things. One, again, that the moderator is not a specific stakeholder in the projects of the Department of Public Works. And two, I do believe in small d democracy. And having this appointing authority, specifically the majority appointing authority, which the moderator currently holds, in the hands of one person, I think is concerning. I think it is much better left to a board where they have access and knowledge of the projects that are going on, and obviously can be influential in choosing the appropriate people for the board. That's about it. If you have any questions.
Thanks, Patty. Nancy or Safdar, any questions for Patty?
No.
Okay.
No.
So Patty, thank you for that. And we can certainly talk about this when it comes up at town meeting. We can, I mean, it depends on how town meeting goes. They may not ask for our opinion prior to voting this. They may ask for our opinion. Does anybody have an opinion right now, kind of an initial gut reaction, or you want to think about it, and we can have a pre-town meeting if we need to. Go ahead, Nancy.
I actually think what she says makes a lot of sense. I just hadn't really given it much thought in the past, but it does make sense.
Yeah, same to me. I mean, I think I probably need a little more time to think, but I think with Nancy that it makes sense, and maybe even, we can certainly talk about it before town meeting if we need to,
Right.
but it makes sense
Okay.
to me.
I think it would be great to be able to go into town meeting, having the support of the two boards that would gain the appointing authority of this. So I would appreciate your support. I know that we will have it of the planning board based on the meeting from last night.
Okay. That's good to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we need to vote on this? Can we vote on it then? I mean, I think.
So I think we can, or we can do a pre-town meeting, which would be like right before town meeting if you want. I can get a room for that if you want some more time to think about it. I mean, one of the things that I thought about, so Patty actually came and presented this to select board last week on it. And I actually have a different view as a Board of Health member than I do a select board member. So I have a different opinion. So when I initially heard this, I was thinking, okay, so responsible for wells, right? Which is not necessarily under DPW, right? However, I've talked to people in town and out of town, and I do think that there's a general thought, and I agree with it, that the Board of Health should have some stake in public drinking water, right? And that is one of our responsibilities, although maybe not directly tied to this charge related to the Public Works Planning Board. So the unfortunate part about the Public Works Planning Board, and this is my select board hat, is that the charge is not well defined. It's very broad, and it's, to me, and right or wrong, my view of it is it's an advisory board to help the Public Works Director make decisions, right? So then I kind of look at Board of Health as being getting involved when needed to take action on something that's happening that would impact something from a public health perspective, right? So is having us appoint someone to represent Board of Health, because it's not going to be one of us, right? Like we're going to have an interview process.
Right.
Where
That was
you get
my
citizens-
question that I had.
I think that was my big question, is who would do it. So now I feel better about going head forward with
Well,
it.
it can be.
I was going to be one of us. So that's one of the things I was
Oh,
thinking.
no,
So
yeah.
I don't
mean,
think there's a restriction, Chelsea. There's no restriction on whether a planning board member can appoint themselves or a Board of Health member can appoint themselves.
So that we need to figure out, because I think that changes.
I think it's up to the choice of the appointing authority. I mean, if one of you were specifically interested in sitting on that board, I don't think that
I guess there's no restriction on
against it.
doing that.
But
Okay.
it is not a mandatory thing.
Okay.
And
It's not a designated seat to be a Board of Health member, but we could appoint one of ours.
correct. And
Okay.
the other issue is that it's not an advisory board. You are very correct in saying that the charter is unduly vague. And
Yeah.
going forward at some point, that probably should be amended as well. I think that's a much more involved process than to
Agreed.
change the appointing authority.
I
So
agree with
this is a first step to solving the problem. The way it currently works, based on that unduly broad charter description, is that the effectiveness and working ability of the board is solely determined by the board. If they choose not to meet, or the chair chooses not to meet, they will not meet. It is supposed to not necessarily advise I don't believe it's considered an advisory board, so it's not meant to advise the select board. It reports to the select board. And I think it's meant to, part of the charter was public hearings. In my opinion, I think it's really meant to be the clearinghouse for these projects for the public. If you look at the Hopkinton water issue right now, unless you're going to a lot of the select board meetings, you probably don't know much about that project in this town, which could drastically affect a lot of things, not only our roads and viability to and from the south side of town, but also costs determined by how much Southborough is going to have to pay for this, and whether it should happen in the first place at all. And the public really hasn't been involved in that decision, but also neither has the Public Works Planning Board. And that's where I see that as a board that should be looking at that and telling, bringing those questions for the public to light and getting answers.
Yeah. So I think, thank you, Patty, that is helpful information too. So I think we should think about it a little bit more, because I think from just having my Board of Health hat on, I do think that us being responsible for one of these seats could make sense, depending on how we do it, right? And I think with the broad charge, that's where I get hung up, is how would we, there's nothing in there that specifically talks about anything that's within our purview. But I think that we do have stake here, in anything that's related to, public water, or, and the pesticides that, Patty talked about. I know that, Heather has worked directly with DPW on looking through, a lot of that stuff. Taylor's looked at stuff. So, I think we should think about it. And I think we should think about it from the perspective of, is there more value in one of us being on that? Or are we comfortable with appointing somebody that would not be on this board, would not have any stake in reporting back to us necessarily, but we would have appointed and kind of let go? And, what kind of responsibility would we have then making that appointment, and making sure that, the Board of Health is comfortable with whatever's in there? So I'm getting a little bit hung up on appointing somebody other than us, although I know we all have a lot going on too. And so those are just kind of my initial thoughts.
And then that's my big thing. I think, can we do this? I don't know if any of us can take that on necessarily. And it is an important role that I want to make sure gets, all the attention that it deserves as well. And what do we look for then in somebody who we appoint?
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, would we advertise it?
Qualifications.
Right. And would we advertise it from that point of view, from the Board of Health point of view, right? And the things that we would hope that as this board would want represented, making sure that whoever is appointed to that seat has that vision. So I'm not opposed to it. Go ahead, Patty.
You could always ask your appointed person to provide a report back to the Board of Health after a meeting. And then if you have any comments or thoughts on the topics being covered, because, you know, in this town, those projects continue on and on. It's not like it's a once and done. If you had any thoughts, you could provide it to that board member who could take it back to the board. I mean, there could still be communication. You wouldn't just let somebody out there freewheeling, not knowing what they're doing.
How does the moderator go about appointing someone currently?
Well, for this board or for other boards?
Well, I guess for all, yeah, I mean.
This
Is
board,
it different
he seems
board to
to
board?
choose, this board, he seems to choose people that have been on there for a longer amount of time and just to reappoint them. Those people tend to generally have a background with the Department of Public Works, either as an employee or something. On other boards, I know that he bases it on if people turn in a form and want to apply. I'm not sure how much recruitment he's doing. But like I said, it gets down to the two basic principles that there's no, you know, this happened in 1991. There's no sane reason that the moderator should be appointing the majority of that board. It doesn't, there's no real reason for it. It makes more sense to have it appointed by boards that are stakeholders in the projects, and also the fact that they are multi-person boards.
Gotcha.
So, Heather or Taylor, anything else that you can think of on this topic?
Couple things.
Go ahead.
The citizen petition is asking for 4 appointments from the planning board. And it says 1 from the health department, but I think it should say 1 from the Board of Health.
Yes,
Yeah.
well,
Oh, okay.
And then, you know, I've been looking through sort of DPH, Mass DPH is currently looking with our capacity assessments at a local Board of Health performance standards, you know, sort of kind of outlining, you know, what they're talking about for importance for performance standards for local boards of health. So yes, they do list water pollution, and sort of public health role is more about warning and posting signage, you know, for notification. That's usually sewage pollution, and water supply in terms of, they say, annually publishing a list of hazardous chemicals, which are present in the municipal waste supply, concentration greater than 50%. So yes, there's definitely, as I think, as Chelsea said, kind of a stake in sort of water quality issues as well. Yeah, but that's not directly DPW, but there are some stake in local water.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
I think so.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Patty.
thank you. And hopefully we'll have your support, and I appreciate your time. Thanks.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, Taylor, I'm going to hand it over to you because you have the next couple agenda items,
Okay.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Great. Okay, so the next one, number 5, is the revision of our summer camp application. So I don't know, can I share my screen?
Can you do it now? I just.
Yes, thank you.
Mhm.
So currently this is our application. There's nothing wrong with it. I just don't like it, and I think it's confusing for people to go through and make sure they have everything. It's also confusing for me to go through and make sure that all of the appropriate things are there. It's a lot of back and forth, and there's some things that it says you need a copy of that you don't actually need a copy of, and usually something gets missed. So I would like to change our application just to be more clear about what we're looking for. Oh, shoot. And I would like to use, I've been looking at applications from other towns, and I would like to use one similar to Wellesley's. And this is theirs. Can everyone see that? It's just more straightforward. The other big thing is like, you know, looking for an updated number and an email address is really important for us to be able to communicate with the camp directors that are applying for camps each year. That way we have the newest information. You know, some of this isn't applicable, but like, it's just more straightforward. And then the other thing that they have, which I really like, is like, this is the required document and here's where you can find it on this page number. Like, you just go straight to their binder and this is where everything is. And, you know, if you don't have it, it's very clear. Hang on one second, because there we go. You know, this is a notice that goes out to each camp that they have every year. And it just tells them all the documents. The other thing they have is, let me pull it up. They have like everything that you need on their website, like every single sheet that you possibly could need. They have it. You could just pull it up instead of each camp looking for the requirements online. So I would like to do something like this, if that's okay with everyone. I don't know that we necessarily need to vote to change the application, but I don't know what other people's thoughts are about updating it. It would still meet all the DPH requirements for camps.
I mean, just this brief looking at it, it looks so much better than the one you're currently using.
Yeah, everything's in one place, and I think it would be less confusing for camp directors to get all the information they need instead of us chasing them for it.
I agree 100%. And the more standardized these things are, the better you're going to get forms in on time and everything else. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have already had a lot of camps reach out for this year, so I wouldn't change it for this year, but I would change it for next year.
Taylor, do you know the last time that we updated our camp form?
This says it was revised in January of 2020 at the bottom of ours. I don't know if anybody remembers that or not, but
I think that's a great idea.
I don't remember.
okay.
Sorry.
Thank you. I think you have our blessing on that.
Okay, perfect. The next thing is flu ordering and purchasing, and I'll just briefly kind of review where we're at and see what people's thoughts are. I've talked to Chelsea about this quite a bit. So unfortunately, in 2021, we did not get back as much money as we were expecting. Actually, we got about half back, and then through investigation in the past like 5-6 months, it's been determined that our third-party company that we use for reimbursements, because of the influx of reimbursements they had with COVID vaccines in addition to flu vaccines, they weren't able to file in time. And so we got denied for about 40-45% of our vaccinations. So we did not get the money back for the vaccine, and we also did not get the administration fee back reimbursed to us. So we don't have that much money in our account. I am still looking into pricing, but I need to order by the end of the year. I mean, excuse me, by the end of the month, this month. And, but basically the question that we have is, should we just order for seniors only, which is a more expensive vaccine, which is why I'm proposing that? Or do we reduce the amount of vaccine that we order so that we can still accommodate schools and staff who are under the age of 65?
Or third option, we find somewhere else in our budget to at least encumber it through the end of the year so that we can buy the same amount we bought last year.
Which I did use all of our vaccine this year and last year. So there's none that went to waste.
Right.
I like Chelsea's idea of looking elsewhere for the money, because I love the flu clinic. I think
no,
it's
I
Yep,
agree. And
totally
I
agree.
think it's an important service that we offer residents.
And then this, especially where you went to the schools, Taylor, like that was huge.
And they were so appreciative, and I really would be upset if we had to get rid of that, but it is an option.
This is one of the things that the town sees us doing.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And whereas there's so much that you guys do that no one sees, but they do appreciate these flu clinics. So, I would be sad that if we couldn't reach out to as many people as we had in the past, but I also understand we're in a pickle with the funds, but.
But I agree with Chelsea and Nancy. I think we need to do what we, I think it's just way too important and vital. And again, when we look at what our long-term goals are for public health, this would be getting as many people vaccinated as possible against influenza. And I think, for a lot of families, it is hard to get to a flu vaccine. It's not easy. And the fact that we can bring it to them makes a huge difference. So,
and I think also we have some wiggle room in the price of regular flu. Granted, that is not very expensive. The cost comes at the over 65 flu, the high dose flu vaccine. So that would take up a good chunk of our money, but I can reduce the cost of our regular flu vaccine.
Hopefully it's somewhat of a one-year issue if we have a third party who can reimburse us somewhat appropriately.
They seem to have stated that this is a one-time issue, but we're still kind of dealing with the repercussions.
I think this isn't going to be a 1 year. I think this is going to carry over into next year. So I think it's completely unacceptable that we didn't get reimbursed for these.
Right.
It was not our fault that they were not filed timely. That's not on us. So this got on the list to Representative Donahue last week on things to be earmarked. So I asked for $15,000 to make up for what was lost. Because I think if we can't support the towns doing this, then
well, and then it's hard
what
to
do we
get people back once you've had them have to go elsewhere.
Right.
Then it's almost like if you have a couple of bad years, then people aren't going to come back.
Right.
Correct.
We will have lost
and it's such a
program for the town. And I feel like if we skip it for a year or two, you're never going to get those people back.
Right.
Agreed.
You'll get some, but it won't be the same.
No. And there's just such positive feedback about it. And Nancy, one of the things that you've said all along is anything that we do at a higher level, we have to have flu clinics in town, right? That's so important for so many different reasons, right? And you get the boroughs people there. It's just such a great team effort too for the employees. So I just think there's a lot of value in doing this. So I will continue to try to get funds back because I think it's inexcusable. And understood that everybody was dealing with a lot, but there has to be some way that they can reimburse us for it. So
I think the other good thing just to note is that we're not the only town that was affected. So anybody who used this company had the same problem. They didn't get reimbursed. So there's a lot of discussions with other towns about what the next steps are as far as seeking reimbursement for this. So I think there will be more discussions to come. I don't know what the resolution will be, but just so that everyone knows, this is definitely not a Southborough unique issue.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have
Taylor and I
to
can-
still?
Okay.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. For kids,
Okay.
are you eligible? Are we at any way allowed to do BFC eligible vaccine to defray some of that cost if we know we're giving it to children, or if we can allot a certain amount to children?
So we can, it was attempted in 2020 and it
Mhm.
was not super successful. The other thing is it's very strict, as you know, very
Yeah,
strict
yeah.
on who we can and can't vaccinate. So if I
Mhm.
have leftover vaccine, I can't give it to
Give it.
residents. Like, you know, we just don't get the influx of what I would need to make it a successful program.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Okay, so Taylor and I can work with Carla on figuring out how we can make the, you know, the funding work. And hopefully in the meantime, we will be able to replenish the revolving account and then everything will go back to where it came from. But I think we need to be able to sacrifice something else to do this. And, you know, to at least not dip on our vaccine for this year and try to work through it. So, okay, thanks, Taylor.
Okay, next is scheduling an employee Narcan training during Wellness Week. So Wellness Week is the first week in May. We have really focused our efforts with the schools to make Wellness Week big in the school system this year. We're also trying to spill that over to town employees in Northborough and Southborough. So one thing that I had proposed doing, which we are already doing in town, but is Narcan training for all employees, because one of the things that we'd like to do with opioid funds is get naloxone boxes next to every AED in town. And if we're doing that, it's also important that employees know how to correctly use Narcan and what to look for and when to use it appropriately. So I thought it would be good to bring it up here. Obviously, we would need the support of other people to get it so that all the employees can take some time off out of their day to get this training. But it's quick, it's about a half an hour. It's really informative, and we've had a lot of positive feedback. We've already done one training for town residents that was very successful. It was full. We capped it at 20 people and it was full. And we have 2 more scheduled. And Northborough has done like 5 or 6, and Westborough has done 4, and Boylston has done 1, and all were really well received by town members. So I'm hoping to get this to be like a universal training with our employees as well. My thought was, and we would have to work on this a little bit, but maybe do like a 5-minute CPR training at the same time, if, you know, fire was available to help us with that.
I think
That
that's
sounds great.
So I'm not sure what the next steps would be in order to get that approved as something we could do, but.
Yeah, I think you probably would need to reach out to the town administrator, and
Okay.
then their office can probably help you coordinate with, you know, all the heads that are, that would have to approve employees, taking time out of their day.
Okay, perfect. Let's see. The next thing is the discussion of pool and camp fees. So I recently did a pool inspection with Michael, and we were just talking about the fees. Barbara, how much do we charge for our pools now?
Application 100.
Okay, so I can just tell you quickly what surrounding towns have. You know, we're pretty closely aligned with them. So Sudbury's pool application fee is $100, Westboro is $150, Hopkinton is $150, and Northborough is $125. Some of them also have re-inspection fees. So if they don't meet the standard, then you go back and you charge them like $50 to have a re-inspection. I don't know when the last time we looked at the pool fees are. I don't think we did that when we did our fee schedule last year, but I just kind of wanted to get people's thoughts about where we're at, if we should increase. Right now, just for reference, we have 3 pools that need to be inspected. it's Fay School, NECC, and St. Mark's.
Just how do we compare with other towns? I think that would be my benchmark there. If we are, like
Yeah.
when we did the other fees, we compare it to other towns. And when we found out we were significantly under,
Yeah, I don't think we're significantly under it. The
Mhm.
range is, it's that about $100 to $150. Hopkinton is 150 with a $50 reinspection fee, although I don't anticipate that we would need very many re-inspections.
Personally, I feel like the three pools you're talking about are schools that don't pay any taxes. And I would be in favor of going up on the fees, quite honestly. I think there's money there to be, I think we should go up on the fees, quite honestly.
Taylor, how long does it take you to do a pool inspection?
It took us about an hour and a half.
And then there's paperwork in addition to that?
So we do the paperwork at the same time, because you're doing the inspection. If there was, follow-up or something, then yes, but honestly, no, there's not paperwork after the
Right,
fact.
with an application fee, it covers the inspection, but also covers the paperwork to do the permit, but.
But Barbara does that on the back end?
Right.
The permit part? So
Right.
there is time that Barbara spends on it too.
Mhm.
then
So I think-
150 would be sorry, Chelsea, I was going to say, if the other towns around us are doing 150, then it seems reasonable to do 150 and then a application fee of 50.
Agreed.
The kids that are going to these camps are paying a pretty high premium, so I don't think $150 for the pool inspection and Taylor and who has ever time is, I even think that's pretty cheap, to be quite honest with you in this age, but.
Well, and you're getting Taylor and Michael. So it's
Well,
two
I don't know
employees.
that you would always get both of us, but
Maybe not, but
we both are pretty new at it, so we decided to team up on this one.
yeah, that makes sense. So are you looking to do that for this round or next?
Next
You
year,
do it once a year?
once a year?
So can you, for our next meeting, type up a memo and put the comparisons in there, and then we can vote it with the memo?
Yep.
Thank you. And I also think we should add a reinspection fee amount in there too.
Okay. The other thing that I think, I don't know that it needs to be voted on, but when you look up our application, I don't think there's like the requirements that we're looking for, like our inspection form. And I do think that should be available also. So if everyone's fine with that, it's just the DPH requirements. Just so that people know exactly what we're looking for.
That makes sense.
Okay. And then the next one is camps. So there's it's really an all over range for camps for fees. And I'll just tell you quickly, like, we charge, it's $100, correct, Barbara?
Or was it 150? I'd have to look again.
Maybe 150. Let me just take a look. I have it pulled up. 150, and then a late fee of $50 if you don't submit your paperwork within 90 days prior to the first day of camp, which I will say, and I think Barbara would agree, is we do have a few camps that are consistently late.
Yep.
So Sudbury is 150, Hopkinton and Northborough are only 50. They have not updated their fee schedule in a long time. Weston is 315, and Wellesley has a fee schedule based off the amount of sessions they have. So if they have a camp that's one session, it's $200, and then it goes up from there. Let me just pull it up. So it's $200 for one camp session. If you have 2 to 4 sessions, it's $300. 5 to 6 sessions, $400. 7 plus $500. Which I don't know that I would be in favor of going that high, but you kind of get the point. Like, there's a schedule for how many sessions they have. We only have, I think, one or two camps that has sessions, so I'm not sure that would be worth it for us. But the other big thing, and I know Barbara is a fan of this as well, just talking to her about it, is we have a form that's required at the end of each camp session that's required to be sent to DPH, that the camps are responsible to getting back to us with how many campers they had per session, and things like that. And it's like pulling teeth getting those from some of the camps. Wellesley has a late fee charged associated with it. So I can't find how much they charge, but it says if you don't get it in by like September 10th, then they would charge a late fee. And I think that would definitely be appropriate for us to do as well, so that we don't have to chase people around.
Can we do that part, the late fee part, for this year? Because we have enough notice prior to September? Or is it?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm willing to hear what other people think about it, but I do know like a lot of, like I've had 3 or 4 camps directors that have come to meet with me already, and I've given them our current application and things like that. So I'm not sure if it would be appropriate or not.
And
I mean,
do we
it
charge
just-
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Justine. I was going to say, so I know we have town camps, right? Are they charged the same fee? Like, do we have so
No.
their charges are different? Because I was going to say, I think it may some camps. I don't want to. I don't know how to. I'm trying to word this in a very appropriate way, but you know.
So let me
some
just
camps-
tell you, because this might answer your question. The
Yeah.
rec department camps do not fall under
Right,
our
okay,
jurisdiction.
that's what I wanted to make sure, because I felt like, you know, okay, that makes me feel better. Okay. Okay.
So I think the challenge you run into with doing sessions versus flat or weeks is sessions are usually more than 1 week, right?
Right.
So that's what you're saying is there's only 2 that have sessions.
Yeah,
I don't know what others-
I would be in favor of at least adding the late fee for the form that's required to get sent to DPH. I
Yeah.
think the $150 per application, I think it kind of is right around where it, like around here, what camps are being charged. So I don't know that we should necessarily increase that. The other thing that I think if we wanted to look at increasing would be our late fee for the application itself.
And that's the 90 days prior to. the
Correct.
camp
So that's
beginning.
$50 right now. I don't know how other people feel about that. That's just my thought. And I'm definitely willing to hear what other people think. Barbara,
Well,
what do you think?
Couldn't the board approve even the form that I need to send to?
Right, that would be a new,
But couldn't they approve it? And then when they do get their permit, or when they do get the application, we can put it with the application that the rates have changed, or, you know, comes into effect June 1st.
For this
They
year,
still
you're
have
saying?
time. That you have to make sure you get the piece of paper in, because I send it now with Taylor because I don't think they open their mail or email.
This is
so
for
are you
the
talking about the
initial.
fee for the end of the camp that they're.
This is for
paperwork
the
that they're-
information I need for the state at the end of camp. and
Exactly,
I
that
have to-
state, no, I agree
I'm
that.
calling
Yeah.
people, I'm emailing them. And I
Yeah,
have,
I'm on
the
those
last time I
emails.
asked from the state saying we have to turn this stuff in, well, I don't have it.
So
So
Barbara,
that-
you actually report into the state, not the individual camp.
Correct.
Got
It
it.
goes through us.
Yeah, I definitely think that we should do that for this year. I don't know. What do you think, Nancy?
I agree. Time is money. And if you're chasing these people around for
Yeah.
this, there should be a fee. They should have to pay for that.
And then if
Because
you want to go forward with the other things next
not
year.
to, you know, be timely if there's no, you know, repercussions. So, I mean, that's a pain for you to have to chase these people down, and like time is money, so they should have to pay.
Some towns
sorry.
have that, you said, Taylor, right? The
Correct.
late fee on those, it's the end of the summer, you know,
Correct.
reporting on the camp forms, that's would be new fee for our board, but I do think it's very important.
Sorry, so what's the timing on when that's due to you, Barbara?
On the fall, it's September or October, early October. when I
So
have to
on
submit
the,
them.
oh, sorry,
That's
Barbara.
for the DPH thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so for the DPH form, on the ones that I saw that had a late fee, it said that if you did not get your form in by September 10th, then
Okay.
it would charge you a late fee.
September 10th. And but it's due, it could be due sometime in September. Like, do you have to
I have to
do
go
it?
back and look at my email, but
Okay.
if you don't turn it in, they start hounding you.
So if we can get specific dates, because I almost think that, I don't know how you feel about this, Nancy, but I almost think it should be like a daily fine. So let's say it's due September 1st. I think it should be a daily business day fine for every day they don't get it in.
Oh,
I would be okay with that. I mean, people really do become complacent unless there's some kind of
Monetary repercussions.
Well, it's something that the state requires us to
Yes.
report on.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Exactly.
it's not like it's just for our records. So I think that's where I think the daily, maybe not so much for the camp application, but for the late,
Correct.
for this particular report where we're having them to, it's on us to turn it around to get it to the state. So I think we need to be a little bit more stringent on it.
I would agree with that.
okay.
So Barbara, can you, before the next meeting, just outline the date requirements on that for us?
Yep.
And what you need to do for it, and then we can take a position at our April meeting.
Got it.
And that should give you enough time for Taylor to educate them on what that is prior to camp starting.
Yep,
Is that
and then
correct?
the other thing that I would like to do, if it's okay with the board, is maybe, hopefully, before camps start, approve a new application for next year so that I can tell the camps, we're changing our application. Here's the new one. These are the requirements. And you can like find the information on our website also.
Okay,
That way they know.
great. So maybe what we do for this year at our April meeting, just throwing it out there, is so we probably can't have a fee for 90 days out because I think it's too tight.
Correct.
But is there a date that if they don't have it in by, I'm making it up, May 15th, I know that's way more into the 90-day cutoff, that there will be a fee this year, and next year we'll implement the 90-day.
So right now we
We
have
already
a fee.
have that fee. We already have
We
that.
do.
fee.
I was
Okay.
just thinking maybe we increase it.
Mhm.
Okay, what is it now?
It's $50.
I would increase it for next year.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's wait on that one, increase it for next year, but that can be included in your new draft that you can show them prior to this year starting, and you can talk to them about a per day late fee potentially for the end of camp.
Yeah. All right. Any more
Nancy
questions
Sacker,
on that
good with
before
that?
we move on?
No?
Great. I think that's all I had. Next is
Okay.
the seat capacity assessment.
Okay, so I'm just gonna give a high level overview on this, because I think my roommates are getting a little antsy down there. Getting ready for, where's my lunch? So Heather Taylor and I attended the state's information session on the state capacity assessment. And there were a few things that the top things that were addressed in the assessment are really not relevant to us in particular. One of them was around tobacco. So 2 out of the 4 boroughs, towns in the PHE grant are not part of a tobacco coalition. They're working on it, but they're not in yet. So that was a big flag. So we kind of knew that, right? And they're working on it. So, it's not really it wasn't really a finding, I guess, for us because we knew that they were working. The second thing was around Maven responses, and I can let Taylor kind of give you a general overview of that because she's the one that's kind of responding in Maven. But essentially what they did was they averaged out during COVID time the information. And so it really isn't
2019 and 2021. In 2019, I don't think any of the towns were in the position
Yeah.
they're in now.
So, I have a lot of specific questions still for the people who did the assessment about this, but basically what they did is, so say, for example, you have a COVID case or a foodborne illness case. They measured the amount of time it took you to acknowledge the case. And I don't know what the time period is. So that's one question that I had, like, are they including weekends in that? Are they including like nighttime? I don't know. So I have a lot of specific questions. The other piece of it is, at least for the 2021, I can speak to, in that January to April, we were getting over 60 COVID cases a day, which obviously is not sustainable for our small little department. And we pretty much were doing on average about 20, maybe 15 to 20 cases a day. And just like rolling through them. So I don't know if that was included in it. There's a lot of big pieces of information that I'm still looking for from them. The long and short of it is that I don't agree with what they're saying, like to beef up staffing. That's for Maven. I do think that we're very timely with getting back to our cases, whether they're tick-borne, flu-borne, tick-borne, foodborne, COVID cases that are applicable to call. I do think we get to most of them within the same day. Whether the resident answers or not is another story, but that's not something that they penalize us for. It's just when you acknowledge the case. So I
think
don't
the
think
staffing-
the data is, I think the data is a little skewed, and I don't think it's applicable to us at this time.
I don't think the staffing recommendations is in line with what's happening today in 2023. The 2021 Southborough had nursing. I don't think that responded to Maven in a timely fashion. For the other three towns, I can as well speak to that, but my understanding is the shared public health excellence grant, the bulk of our money is going to public health nursing, but that wasn't instituted until somewhere around halfway through 21, and they looked at every month in 2021, and they looked at 2019. So what we've done with our public health excellence grant is not really taken into account in the data for 2019 and 2021 very much.
Right. So I guess for me, the information was not as useful as I had hoped it would be. I thought it was going to point to the areas it pointed to, I think, are areas we're actually doing well in. And it's kind of confusing because I think it's just based on the time frame that they were looking at stuff. And I think it's unfortunate because it's a lot of what Taylor is doing and doing really well, and that we're getting great feedback on. So I think I was a little bit disappointed in the results. And I know they spent a lot of time and energy in looking at this. And I think for, maybe some of the other towns, there are some other things that came out. I would say the only real takeaway for me was when you're looking at the budget and grant per capita, like it doesn't specify which town it is, but you can kind of tell by looking at the graph what town that is. And, for us, we're way off the chart in terms of spending per capita. So I know that's something that we're really taking into consideration when looking at how we're doing programs going forward and that kind of thing. But that will come more into that'll probably be more of a discussion point with the regionalization grant than it really is.
Right. I'm not
how we operate.
I'm not sure I've saw it that way, but I don't know that we have time. I mean, I don't know that we're going to look at guessing what town is this or that, but I sort of had a different read of it, but.
So any specific questions, Safner and Nancy? I know we couldn't all be on the call.
Yeah, no.
No,
No, their two biggest points, like we just reviewed, were not
Yeah.
very pertinent to current day and pertinent to Southborough. I mean, they had a couple little smaller things about backup documentation, which again, in food and housing is improving with the PHE Excellence Grant. Community sanitarian work for nuisance complaints throughout the boroughs. Yeah, that, I mean, they had a couple small points, but they did say at the end of the cart, you know, integrating more shared services, more to achieve further performance standards, which is what we're looking into with our Collins Center best practice program. So, yeah,
Right.
but in terms of actionable items, they weren't super pertinent.
Yeah, I think it maybe what it does for us is it says that we've come a long way, and we're I mean, the things that were flagged are not really of concern for us anymore, or if they ever were. I don't know that they were at that time or not, but you know, I
There
think
definitely have been concerns throughout my long time here, but I think we've really come a long way, for sure.
yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I think I wasn't overly concerned with anything that they addressed, I guess. And Taylor and Heather, I think, would agree with that. So okay, good on that.
Mhm.
All right, can we quickly talk about, and maybe what we do here, Heather, is just tee it up and have members reach out to you if they have ideas.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So the FY23 budget for the Greater Boroughs, our Public Health Excellence Big Grant, I emailed to folks because April 12th, the boroughs is having a meeting on the draft for the FY24 grant budget. And at our recent meeting a few days ago, the feeling was that likely it'll be similar, or at least, you know, as a starting point, be fairly similar to the budget that I emailed to folks. So if folks want to look at that and get back to me with any suggestions, I think they have the shared service coordinator, which is being filled by Isabella Caruso. There's the budget item for the health agent, which I can't speak to. You know, that's, I think, super helpful for Southborough. I think, you know, in terms of having those services for that inspections, personally, I would think even having more of that would be helpful. But and then right, the nursing budget, which, as we said before, is really helpful. I think more so for the other three towns, getting on track with those recommendations. And so that's in place as well. And the software, you know, is super helpful as well. So that's the budget from last year, and the draft budget is due in April. So if you had any comments on that, for anything you want me to bring up at the April 12th meeting, just let me know.
Great, thank you. And you both received that yesterday from Heather, right? Okay.
I
So,
did
yeah,
this
feel free.
tomorrow emails. Yep.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I think next, anything else on that? Okay, so our next scheduled meeting is April 11th at 9:30. And then we did May 23rd at 9:30. Okay, and so do you want me to try to schedule a pre-town meeting to talk about the citizens petition?
We probably should, do you think? You know, just
do.
Just to touch base.
Yeah. All right, so let me see what I can get. I told the clerk I didn't need one, but this is before the citizens petition came in. So I'll see what I can get for a room at Trotter. Do you have any time constraints on before town meeting? Town meeting starts at 1.
Okay. So
Not
I'm
that
still,
I know of.
I don't have a date yet for my surgery, so I'm just gonna say everything. I'll just go along as if.
Okay.
And then I'll know.
Got it. Okay. So let me see what I can get, and I'll loop back with you guys once I get a
Sure.
time in a room. Okay. All right. And then that's it for the rest of the meetings.
Your
Um,
kids are good.
They were amazing. I think my teenagers and spring breaker were worse than your little kids.
Oh my God, I had my cat
I
go
mean,
by a few times.
who
I'm
knows
like,
what they're watching?
don't call the Board of Health. My cat's on the dining room table. That looks really hygienic.
I told them I played games with them all afternoon, so that was their.
Bribery. The hell,
Yeah. Okay, anybody have anything else?
I don't
All
think
right,
so.
so I'm gonna move that we adjourn at 12:22.
I second the motion and vote aye, Sacco.
And I vote aye, Medina.
And I
Okay,
hope
great.
no one
And
uses power.
I know,
I
I
know.
know, everyone stay safe.
Heather Taylor, see you at 1:00.
Oh.
Yeah, we're having.
All right, and thanks
Encompass
Barbara
meeting
for
on.
running the
Bye.
meeting in the background.
Bye.
So